it's tough with media and stuff, and you don't always get the full side of the story. And so we'd go out and we'd turn up on court, sometimes hungover, and we'd train. But it wasn't ideal. It sounds cheesy, but I just, the stars aligned for me, really. Like, everything that happened over those 2 weeks was mental.
I mean, we've got to sort of touch on walking out on centre court. I mean, it's just a dream, isn't it, man? So many young tennis players just have that vision in their head of even just, gracing the grass.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm more proud now than I was at the time. I just wanted to get onto the match and try and beat him.
Welcome to the Shaping Champions podcast, a platform for discussion and exploration into what it takes to be a champion in life. We speak to athletes, entertainers, business people, and everyone in between about their journey and experiences, discovering the key ingredients needed to become successful at whatever it is you do. Please do subscribe to us at wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Shaping Champions Podcast. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Shaping Champions podcast, hosted by myself, Jimmy Davis, where we talk to a variety of professionals across the worlds of sport, business, and entertainment, and discuss just what it takes to shape present and future champions. My guest on today's episode is a professional tennis player and someone who has most certainly experienced the highs and lows of professional sport and everything in between. I'm very, very excited to welcome to the podcast Marcus Willis. How you doing, sir?
Hiya, thanks for having me. I'm doing not too bad. I'm not too bad, thank you.
Nice one. And you look like you're joining us from somewhere other than the UK. So give us a little flavour of where you're at the moment.
Yeah, I'm in Italy, just on the coast in Italy, at San Benedetto del Tronto, it's called. Playing a tournament. I start tomorrow. It's hot here. It's like 35 degrees today. I'm just hitting at 1 o'clock. It took me back.
Crikey, yeah. So you're up against it tomorrow then, not just in the form of the opponent, but also the weather. Marcus, I'd be really interested to hear from you. What does it mean to you to be a champion?
To be a champion, to be a champion is to be the best. Is to be the best. If you asked me when I was a kid, I would have said to win everything. But now I think if you're being the best you can be, if you're maximizing your potential, then in my eyes you're a champion as well. So it's not necessarily winning everything all the time. That's how I see it now.
Yeah, that word potential, I think that's the key one in what you just said. So take us right back to the beginning of your journey in tennis then, Marcus, and let's talk about your potential. How did you get into tennis? How did it all start?
Well, my mum played badminton just at the local club. She was very good. And I started playing as well, having badminton lessons. And then my badminton coach started running mini tennis lessons on a Thursday. And I started playing, and I picked up really well. I didn't start playing tennis till I was 8, which is actually quite late for a professional. But I started playing tennis, mini tennis on a Thursday, and I just absolutely loved it. And I'd get home from school and play against the wall for like 3 hours. Mama to call me in for dinner most nights. So I guess had an obsession with it for whatever reason. But yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. And then my parents every year from then, they'd take me to Queen's on the Thursday of the tournament. We'd take a packed lunch and go and watch all the players. And I'd go and try and get an autograph off Goran and people like that, and watch Sam Preston, Hemman, and all those guys. And looking back, you don't know what it takes at the time, but I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play the big tournaments. I wanted to play at Queen's. I wanted to play at Wimbledon. And then from there, I guess I played a lot more. I got quite good. I was, one of the top players in the county by the time I was under 12. And then by the time I was 16, I was selected to play for Great Britain in the top 3 players there. And then by the time I was 18, I was number 1 in the country and number 14 in the world as a junior. So I think, I mean, it's a bit vague, but I just, as I said, I was obsessed and I practiced, and, a good coach saw me at a local tournament and said to my parents, this kid's got something, I'd like to coach him. And he was sort of the best coach best coach I knew. And I worked with him between the ages of 11 and 18. And by the time I was 14, I was training 25 hours a week and, missing quite a bit of school and trying to catch up work and, getting changed in the car on the way to school after training. And it was just, I don't know how I did it actually. It was pretty full on. But it went from, enjoying it as an 8-year-old to, waking up before 6 to eat breakfast to go to training every day bar Saturday.
So that obsession that you mentioned, where did that stem from? Was that just a real love for the game, for the sport, or was there like a desire to compete, a hunger to win?
I've always been extremely competitive in whatever I've done. Like, I don't like losing anything, whether it's a game of Scrabble or Monopoly, or I love playing my football. FIFA, I've broken a couple of controllers over the years playing that. So, I love competing, whatever it is. Even if I'm rubbish, I'll compete at something. I don't know. That's who I am. And I need to know when to sort of rein that in sometimes. But no, I just had this, I don't know. I got home from school and I'd be playing against the wall, pretending I'm playing against Pete Sampras in the final Wimbledon, stuff like that. And I'll just go for hours. The amount of balls I hit against the side of my house must have done my parents insane. But I just absolutely loved it and loved what is it about tennis? The fact you're by yourself and there's so many different ways you can play. If you watch Wimbledon now, everyone's quite playing a very similar way. But like back when it was a sort of a serve volley sport, there were people lobbing, you could volley, you could forehand, backhand. I just found it, I could express myself. And, I played a bit of football when I was younger and it was great. I love it. I still like playing now. But, you're out there by yourself in tennis. You got to problem solve. Whereas I find in football, you can have a good game and lose, and you can have a bad game and you can win as a team. So I don't, when in tennis, it's not so much like that. Everything's on you and trying to break your opponent down. So I just, any individual sport, I sort of prefer to team sports for whatever reason.
Can it be quite lonely? You mentioned it being an individual sport there. Are there times where you do feel sort of distant and perhaps alone the edge?
It's not so, when I'm playing and practicing, it's great. It's the travel days are quite long. Like, I'm by myself a lot. Obviously, I play doubles now, so I've always got a partner with me. At the tournament, we don't always travel together, and I play with different people. But no, it does get lonely, and it's something I didn't manage very well in my 20s. In my early 20s, I hated being bored, and I found myself in too many student nights and stuff like that between matches. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. Like, the thought of going into the hotel room and sitting there for 3 hours, just I couldn't do it. Whereas now I've got, a family, a young family, and whenever I can sleep, I do. It's very different. But in my 20s, I was like, if I'm not going out, I'm going to the cinema or I'm going to dinner, I'm always looking to have banter with someone, or, I couldn't really keep still. And I sort of struggled with that over the years. I always got myself in a little bit of trouble, I suppose. And, and that stemmed from sort of 16 years old up until about, 22, 23, ultimately.
Yeah. And understandable, because when you're at that age, you have those things, those temptations, and everyone else is out doing it as well, alongside the things that you've mentioned, the kind of struggling to be on your own and be in your own company. So in that sense, does that mean that there's a level of mental resilience needed, not just on the court but off the court as well?
Yeah, I think, obviously I can put it down to me as well, my personality, whatever, but the players that did their best had a team around them. And you'll see the top pros now who are playing at Wimbledon, they've got, a team around them still. So I think the importance of that is very underrated. And I, from the age of 16, I had coaches, but I didn't have people around me. I didn't have a support network. And I think that's where a lot of players, certainly in Britain, I see guys now traveling to tournaments by themselves because there's no other way. You can't afford a coach, but I mean, no player's doing it by themselves. Like I can think of probably 5 guys off the top of my head that have gone around playing tournaments or in the top 100 in the world by themselves. It just doesn't happen. So, I travel with my dad up until the age of 16, 17, and he was quite strict, but it kept me on the straight and narrow. And all I was doing was focusing on tennis and stuff like that. And then, when I could be by myself, I sort of thought, oh, I can do what I want now. No one's telling me what to do. But actually, like you see Rublev, Djokovic, Murray, you see their family are in the box still with them now. But they're not by themselves. And I think I underestimated the importance of the off-court stuff. I thought, look, I always trained super hard. I was always one of the fittest in the squad. If I had the best set of lungs, I could run all day. I was quick at 17, 18. My fitness was great. I was a bit out of shape, but I didn't think it mattered. Whereas now I think I'm taking these supplements every night. I'm trying to look for that extra 1% that's going to help me get better, rather than see what I can get away with, or think it's okay because I'll just win anyway. So I think it's learning, and really, I certainly was a kid up until the age of 22. You're so young that you haven't really experienced. You're quite sheltered from the real world as a tennis player. It's hotels, it's eating, it's training, and then and then when you're sort of 21 or so and you're by yourself, you're looking around a bit and maybe wanting to fit in, or maybe wanting to let your hair down a bit, or whatever. I don't know what it is. But that's sort of the route I took. It wasn't like I was flipping on 3-day benders all the time, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't getting enough, the right sleep. I wasn't eating the right way. Obviously I went on a few nights out, sometimes even before matches, and I'd turn up and win a lot of the time, but that's not the point. I was kind of thinking about just winning that match rather than the long-term process of being, a champion or the best you can be. I was just focusing on winning, and I knew I kind of could at that level I was playing at. So, I've learned a lot over the years. I've had a lot of time to think about how to get better, but ultimately it's me by myself. Yeah.
So, you mentioned earlier that you reached the top 20 in the junior rankings. Clearly you had an incredible amount of talent. Do you think that you reached a point then where you felt like your talent would just carry you through?
Certainly a little bit, because I went to the federation when I was 17, 18, and some people around you just tell you you're better than you are. There's a lot of rave. I think in the UK it's not just tennis, like football as well. You're told you're brilliant when you're not yet. Whereas you go out to Spain, Argentina, and Italy, it's you've got potential, you've got talent, but there's a long way to go. I kind of thought my first year juniors I'll be top 200 in the world straight away. That was my thought, and obviously I wasn't. But I think I had one really good coach who kept me really grounded, whether I won or lost. But I don't think there's enough of that. There's so much focus on, if you win this futures, you'll go to this ranking, and you're number 14 in the World Juniors. Also, the junior tour, you're playing all the Grand Slams, you're being put in a 5-star hotel on Fifth Avenue at the US Open. You're kind of being treated like someone who's at the US Open for good. Whereas, a year later, I'm on the wrong train in Romania by myself. And I think you're just maybe given too much, like these contracts. I had an agent. I had like retainers on my rackets. I was getting things that a lot of guys, 200 in the world, weren't getting, and I wasn't as good as them. So I think it can be dangerous being a good junior, because you think, oh, this is what my life's going to be like now.
Yeah, the sort of the too much too soon kind of approach, perhaps. And yeah, I think, you're absolutely right. Like young sporting prodigies, perhaps maybe their egos are overinflated. People giving them that message, a bit too early or whatever. But at that point, there were sort of question marks had arisen, hadn't they, about your kind of attitude, or at least this is what I've read. And
yeah, it's tough it's tough with media and stuff, and you don't always get the full side of the story. If you look online, it's made out like I rocked up to a practice court, a session without my rackets, like I just forgotten them in my room. That's how it sort of was spun, and that wasn't it wasn't the truth. Like I missed a bus to go and get my accreditation. I was late for that. I was faffing about in my room, but it was a bus to go and get our pass for the week, and practice was meant to be next to the hotel. So as I was on the way on the late bus, because we had a couple of hours buffer, as I was on the late bus to get my accreditation, I was obviously bollocked for being late on the phone. We were originally told to leave our rackets at the hotel because we were practicing there. So I left my rackets, got to the centre, got my accreditation. And as I was going back to the hotel, the coach rang me and said, look, just tell the driver to drop you at the practice court. And I said, oh, okay then. Because I thought maybe they wanted to talk to me or something. Because, it's 400 metres away from the hotel. And as I walked on the court, all the boys are hitting. And they're hitting an hour and a half earlier than we were meant to be hitting. And they kind of said, like, where's your rackets? And I said, oh, like, what's happened to the practice session? Like, have you moved it forward? And they were like, yeah, well, why did you miss the bus? And there was a bit of an argument about it. Obviously, I shouldn't have been late. And that was the last straw of the trip. I was just messing around. Like, nothing I did was, illegal or anything ridiculous, but I was just being a bit of an immature lad. Like playing pranks on people, knocking on people's doors and running away. And it wasn't just me by myself as well. There was always different people there, but it was always me being there. So, that was kind of the last straw for them. And I was really surprised when they told me they're sending me home from a Grand Slam, considering I'd worked my nuts off to get seeded. My dad rang the LTA and said, look, I'll pay for the whole price of the trip, and he'll stay with friends. He won't be a bother to you. Just let him play. But because it was a trip run by the federation, they had the authority to pull me out. So they pulled me out. Even my dad pleaded, said, look, sorry, he's not been easy, but we'll pay for whatever you paid so far, and he'll stay with friends. Just let him play. And they said no. And then 2 weeks later, I've got the presser ringing me up and knocking on my door, and it's all a bit confusing because, I was immature. I was a bit of a pain, but I didn't feel like I did anything to deserve being sent home and not playing a Grand Slam. And you say, did I learn from that? Or did I learn from it? I stopped trusting people. I stopped trusting people. I realised, people, the federation didn't have my back so much. Certain individuals who, act like your best mate. But this is life. This is what happens, not just in tennis. You see people who act nice to you and are not nice behind your back, and that was a tough lesson for a 17-year-old lad. It was heartbreaking at the time. Don't get me wrong. I worked really hard to get top 15 in the world. I was seeded. I was about to play the next day, and they pulled me out the day before. So I think that knocked me a little bit. that knocked me, yeah, certainly a little bit. But yeah, learn a valuable lesson, I suppose.
I mean, it does seem really harsh. What strikes me about the story is perhaps the difference in cultures between sports. So if I think about, you're a football fan, Marcus. If I think about someone like Paul Gascoigne in the world of football, was constantly playing pranks on everybody at every training camp, every major competition, any chance he got, and like it was embraced. It was, it was encouraged to a degree. You know what I mean? So I think, that just really hits home the sort of perhaps how strict the tennis officials are, maybe. Or
the funny thing about it is that there were coaches there that had been around in the UK. One actually was at our academy, and it wasn't like I never did this kind of stuff before, or we didn't muck around, and it seemed fine there. But as soon as we were at the Aussie Open or on an official trip, it was just like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And look, I mean, I'm not saying I was perfect. I must have been I must have been tough to look after, but I wasn't going out drinking. I wasn't going missing. I trained hard on court. Results were good. I wanted to be there. It wasn't like, I was lax, or, I wasn't off smoking around the corner or anything like that. I was just being a bit of a dick. Yeah. And probably, it was probably a bit relentless, but as I said, we're 17-year-old lads, and I was excited to be in Australia as well. So a lot of emotions going on. But yeah, I'd like to say I matured straight away, but I didn't. I still like a joke around now every now and again, but it's just very different. It's just I don't know. I think you put a group of lads together, 17-year-old lads together, and there's going to be a couple that are louder or more annoying than the other ones, I suppose. And that was me. That was me. I wasn't very good at not getting caught as well. Like there's some lads on that trip who are doing exactly the same as me, who didn't get told off once. So yeah. I wasn't very subtle with it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. What was that feeling like on the plane on the way back home? How did you feel?
It was so surreal. Like I don't know if I was trying to blot it out of my mind or not accept it, but I remember I flew by myself as well. I was 17, and I flew home by myself via Hong Kong. And I remember my girlfriend at the time said, like, whatever you do, don't look online. And I'm like, what? So obviously the first thing I do is go and look online, and it's all over the press already, like 12 hours after me leaving. Saying I forgot my rackets. I walked onto court without my rackets, and I was like, okay. It was all a bit surreal. Like, even when I talk about it now, I can't. Yeah, it's one of those things. But no, it didn't really hit home until I sort of landed and saw the carnage it was, with sort of the media kind of harassing my family and myself with phone calls and knocks on the door. It was pretty brutal. Over forgetting a tennis bag, supposedly.
And so what happens next? Did your relationship with the LTA deteriorate? And what were the preceding years like?
Well, no, I mean, they kind of had a word with me about my conduct, and I kind of accepted it. I kind of wish I didn't accept it. But I was, funded at the time, hence why they could pull me out. And, I had meetings and stuff. And I remember when I got back, my local academy said, look, you can't come here and train for 2 weeks because we need to be seen doing the same thing that the LTA have done. I was thinking, like, what is this? So I went and trained John Morris, who's an agent now, but he was a coach at the time. He said, you can come and train with me in Essex. So I went off to Essex for 2 weeks and trained. But yeah, it was a really tricky time. And I sort of met with the LTA and sort of said, wrote down a few things that I'd, abide by attitude-wise. And it was fine. It was fine. I then went and won the Canadian Open that summer. But after my dad then started traveling with me again by myself, I missed the South America tour with the LTA as well. I wasn't allowed to go on that. So I went to, Luxembourg, around Europe with my dad, who was, understandably quite annoyed. I don't know if he was, he said he was annoyed at me, but I'm sure he was frustrated at them as well. But he wouldn't tell me that. And I did really well. I mean, I felt under a lot of pressure. But yeah, I played really well, won the Canadian Open. And as a result of that, got invited on the Davis Cup squad. And that September, I was training with Andy Murray and had a GB tracksuit on. It wasn't until that January where the LTA sort of called me to one side and said, look, we're not renewing your contract. We don't think you're serious enough. Even though you're the second highest ranked out of 8 players and your fitness test is the second highest out of 8 players, we just don't think you're that serious about the sport. And you're still, 18% body fat, and we want you to be lower than that. But at that point, I wanted to leave because I kind of knew it was coming, and I knew they didn't have my back. And, I thought, I'll go and train at Sutton. Jeremy Bates, wonderful coach. I'll go train with him there. And he was a wonderful coach, and I played well for a bit. But then that's where I started going out a little bit. During the week, there was a night bus outside our house that went straight to Oceana Kingston. And so, we'd go out and we'd turn up on court, sometimes hungover, and we'd train. But it wasn't ideal. And then, of course, I ran out of funding after that. So I'm then playing, I'm 500 in the world first year out of juniors, which isn't a disgrace at all. I'm then sort of, 400. I got to 300-400 and then plateaued a little bit. And then I could only afford to really play 12 tournaments a year. And you need to play 25. Like most players play 25, between 25 and 30. So I was floating along, playing all right still, but I didn't really improve. And then, I had to stop and do a bit of coaching when I was 22. I then got really out of shape. Found myself a sponsor. He very kindly put money up, and I got my ranking from, I think, 1,200 to 350 in 1 year. And then, I played Wimbledon qualifying, lost first round. I didn't have a good match, but I was, playing challenges and stuff like that. But yeah, I got to 320 in the world singles. The doubles was good. I was top 250. I could play nearly a full calendar. So I was kind of nearly there, but it was frustrating. I mean, yeah, had I an unlimited amount of money or funding, if I feel I would have done, significantly better. But that's my journey. And then obviously I was about to stop. I got injured in the January, and then 2016 happened. So that was quite nice.
Yeah, we'll definitely come to that in a second for sure. So I'm interested. Do you sort of, is there a bit of resentment there towards the LTA, Marcus? Do you feel that if there had been a support system in place, and if you'd have been helped through that period, that actually, you could have gone on to great things?
It's very easy to criticise the LTA. Especially from my point of view, I didn't have a positive experience now. Like the training was really good, the coaching was really good, but there were 4 players to a coach, and the coach I did really well with, they wouldn't let me have him full time because he coached another group of players, and the coach we were given wanted me to play a style that didn't really work. He was a very good coach, but just not for me. And when I sort of highlighted this after a few weeks, they kind of told the coach I didn't want to work with him, but then made me still work with him, so the relationship wasn't good. And yeah, as I said, you leave training on a Friday and they're like, yeah, see you Monday. There's no sort of human connection. It's all very much, we're paid this much money a year to coach you between Monday and Friday, and then see you later. I've got to take responsibility myself as well. But I felt very alone. I didn't have a whole lot of direction. I was a little bit lost, but this isn't just me. This happens to loads of promising players. They just sort of get flattened. You're kind of given everything, and then you're given nothing the next year. And they can kind of control what they want to control. Like, we're giving you 80 grand's worth of funding 1 year because you got a coach traveling with you, and then the next year, "Oh, sorry, you're not serious enough. Good luck." So I feel, I feel like, yeah, I don't, from what financially what the LTA have to how many players they've actually produced themselves, I don't think it's very good. No. But they don't seem to look at the countries that are doing well and kind of copy them. Like, I'm in Italy now, and there's a challenger tournament on. There's also a futures on. They've got tons and tons of tournaments every week. In the UK, there's maybe 10 a year, and we live on an island. So unless you've got money to travel, you can't play tennis. And there was a stage where it was really good. So they had this bonus system, which meant anyone could get it, any age. Whatever round you reached in a tournament, the LTA would match financially. And there were 20 odd tournaments in the UK a year. So yeah, like you could find family somewhere, or you could stay cheap somewhere, play a lot of tournaments. If you did well, the LTA matched your prize money. You could actually start being able to travel a little bit as well. And then that got completely scrapped the next year. So it's frustrating as a player. No, I don't have all the answers of how to, generate loads of world-class players, but I feel like they support too few players at too much of a cost. And I think it whacks pressure on people too young by telling them they're brilliant, by giving them so much. I don't think it helps. Rather than if you actually fund 50 players with 10 grand rather than 10 players with 50 grand, I think you'll create a lot more good players in the future. Maybe not Andy Murray's, but I don't think there's a recipe for that. Murray's not LTA. He went to Spain when he was 14. James Ward went to Spain when he was 14. Cam Norrie was about to quit, went to American college. Dan Evans is an anomaly. Do you look at most of the good players have either done it from abroad or done it themselves? Certainly on the men's side.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it's like now, Marcus, but was there any focus on the psychological side of things when you were coming through the system, or was it all technical?
Oh, there's so much technical stuff. And that's another thing I find it frustrating about tennis in Britain, is that they're so obsessed with how it looks rather than how effective it is. And you look at all the French tennis players, there's so much different style going on. They're so fascinating to watch, but most of the coaching in the UK is about it, looking good, preparation. Doesn't matter if you hit it in the back fence, but as long as it looks good, it's fine. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes. And I'm not very good technically. You won't see me in any textbooks for any of my strokes, bar maybe my serve. I play badminton. I'm very wristy, but I had a really good serve and a really good backhand as a junior. And the federation, the first thing they do is, right, let's just get your forehand good. And so I went through training weeks with, hitting one basket to serve sometimes. They focus on the weakness too much or how it looks, I found. I got really fit, though. I was in the shape of my life. I just didn't really improve that much over that year. Whereas in France, they'd say, let's make your serve and your backhand even bigger. And let's get your forehand working so you don't have to hit that many of them. So put it in awkward positions so they have to hit to your backhand next. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
All right, well, let's move the conversation along. Let's not dwell on the frustration too much. But before we get to the incredible events of 2016, am I right in thinking that just before that time you were sort of considering quitting the sport?
I found a job with a player where I'd coached them and I'd played the tournament as well, and that was sort of a plan. And then in January I twisted my knee playing doubles, so I was in the quarterfinals of singles and I had to pull out, and then my knee didn't really recover until April. And then I was sort of playing French league matches. And in that time when I was injured, I went to Philadelphia, where the player was from, and started doing a bit of work, sort of coaching, hitting, earning pretty good money. And I had quite a few different job offers from places like, around Philadelphia, and obviously with the coach I was working with as well. and it was just something I was considering. Because financially it's great. I love Philadelphia, great city. And I was just fed up with kind of being by myself, trying to find a way. So I was considering moving to America. Is the short answer.
And what changed? What happened?
I mean, Wimbledon happened. I think again the media said like my now wife convinced me to sign in over the phone. And I met my wife in the March. I then went to Warwick and got like a job at the boat club with Gavin Henderson. So I was doing a bit of coaching there. And my plan was always to sign in for pre-qualies because my ranking, I still had a half decent ranking from, the January and the year before. And obviously I signed in over the phone, got into pre-qualies and went on my run. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I can still play. Maybe, I've got a girlfriend now. Things escalated there. We got married in November. We got 2 kids together now. Things escalated, and then America was, it's the option's not there now. I live in Warwick. My kids go to school there. I'm traveling the world playing doubles, but that's why I didn't go to America. Because my life completely changed sort of over 2 weeks. For the good.
Let's get into that right now, man, because we are definitely talking about like one of the most remarkable kind of runs in tennis history, definitely in Wimbledon history. And let's start with the whole kind of David Rice dropping out and not allowing you the opportunity. I mean, how do you, like, when you reflect on that now, what do you see that as? Like luck, fate, destiny?
It sounds cheesy, but I just, the stars aligned for me, really. Like everything that happened over those 2 weeks was mental. So Scott Clayton missed his flight. His flight got cancelled from Istanbul to London, which, it's quite a, frequent route. So he couldn't make sign-in on time. David Rice had his ranking had dropped the week before. So I overtook him in the rankings and I got last in. I got last into pre-qualifying. I was quite surprised to hear I was last in because the previous years, if you're sort of 1,000 in the world, you got in, and I was 770. So I was like, oh, I nearly didn't get in. And then I was told, Scott Clayton would have bumped you out had he made it back. So, wow. I mean, that really could have been it for me because had I not got in pre-qualies, I wasn't going on the tour. I just had a job at the boat club. I was quite happy earning money and with my new girlfriend. So life was great. But as I said, I got in. I hadn't hit a ball on grass. So we rocked up the night before. It was raining, so I didn't get to practice on the grass. So the first time I hit on grass was for my match. I won 6 and 6, and I won the other 2 matches in straight sets. And I think when I pre-qualified, I was like, oh my goodness, just made $5,000 there. Like, that's amazing. And and Jenny was with me at the time, and we were just both like over the moon. We went into London to Nike Town and bought myself a new white Nike top and a pair of shorts because I had to play qualifying. Just happy as Larry. I didn't expect. I knew I was playing okay, but to come through 3 tough matches there in pre-qualifying, I wasn't expecting it. And then obviously I went to a Coldplay concert at Wembley on the Sunday night before the Monday quali. I was there, enjoying the music, and the draw came out, and I said to my dad, that's not ideal. I'm playing a guy who's qualified the last 3 years, Japanese guy. He's pretty good, and my dad just kind of went, oh well, just go and enjoy yourself. It doesn't matter. Just enjoy Coldplay now. And I went 6-1 down in 17 minutes in that match.
Wow.
I went 6-1 down in 17 minutes, but I was actually playing okay. I was just missing the lines by an inch or so. And I didn't change anything. I kept going for it. I was like, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out the way I want to play. And I turned it around and won 7-5, 6-1. And then I've got $8,000. I've got $8,000 and I've just beaten a guy 99 in the world. a week before I was coaching mini Reds at Warwick Boat Club.
Incredible. So what, at that point when you were a set down,
yeah,
what changed in the game? Was it your intensity? Was it your accuracy? What, did he drop a little bit? Like what?
No, I mean, I remember he had a break point to go break up in the second. He missed a passing shot, hit the top of the net and went wide. I just started making. I was hitting the ball pretty big. I was trying to play aggressive because he's super quick and he's super consistent. I just started, being a little more accurate, being a bit calmer, and then, as I said, I got the break at 6-5 in the second, and then I won 6-1 in the third and didn't miss a ball and was, hitting the ball very hard. So I think I just believed that I was playing the right way and kept going and stayed calm, rather than the easy thing to do there is panic and try too much. I sort of just hung in there, and you can feel sometimes when your game's coming. Like sometimes you miss the ball, but it feels good. It's like you have a good connection with it, and I felt it was coming, and it did.
So
luckily, just in time.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone listening to this or watching this, what advice could you give them for staying calm in a moment like that? In a high pressure situation. How do you approach it?
I mean, those 2 weeks I was doing it really well. I just managed to stay very, very present in that and focus on just the next point. All the time it was just about the next shot or the next point. And I'm glad I had my head screwed on for those few weeks because, there's been times in my career where, like everyone, you've folded sometimes or you've just completely lost it. But there it was, I played fantastically well. I just very much, as I said, stayed in the present, believed in myself, and I had little expectation, but I didn't want to be humiliated as well. So every match I was going in, and all I was thinking about was staying with them and trying to play my best tennis, rather than, oh my goodness, I hope I don't lose. I need to hit my volleys here. It was just very much like, if I serve well, if I do what I do well, I've got a chance, and that chance is enough sometimes.
So in the next game, you're up against Andrei Rublev. For anyone who doesn't know, he's currently world number 7. Was playing Djokovic today, actually. We're recording this during Wimbledon this year. And so, that is, am I right in thinking you won that game straight sets?
Yeah, 5 of them, 7-5, 6-4, yeah.
And what was that?
He was good. Like, I'd seen him on TV. He did well in an ATP that year. I knew he was young. He must have been 19 at the time, 18, 19. He hit the ball incredibly hard, but, he stood very far back to return. And for a serve volley, that's great. And he was very one-dimensional at that time. So once I actually got used to the pace of his ball, I won 5-4, but I had quite a few other break points in the match where I thought I could have won easier. He was getting more and more wound up because I didn't want to trade with him. I was using slice a lot, bringing him to the net, lobbing, playing quite crafty tennis. And obviously he's young and not played many people like myself. So, tactically I played that match well, but it was quite comfortable actually. But yeah, he hit the ball hard. I remember saying to my friend after the first game, like, this is ridiculous. But you do get used to it. You get used to it after a few games. I don't think I would now,
though. So is there a level of sort of, adaptability that's needed as a tennis player? You really need to adapt to your opponent, the conditions, other factors.
Yeah, massively. And a lot of players don't. A lot of players don't have that. They just go and play their game and try and execute as well as they can. I've always not played with a huge amount of. I've never really tried to whack anyone off the court. I always try and serve well and, maneuver the ball around and make their life hell. But yeah, if you watch Djokovic, all the top players will find a way to win, even if they're not playing well. And that's something I've been quite good at over the years at my level is remaining competitive. But yeah, with Rublev, I knew very quickly I'm not going to try and trade blow for blow here. I won't be on there very long if I try and do that. So, everything kind of went well. It was, as I said, those 3 weeks kind of aligned, and it was a good, clean match. Not too much drama, and there I was in the last round qualifying with 16 grand in my pocket.
Yeah, it's getting better and better as you progress, isn't it? Absolutely, and in more ways than one. And then, so you're up against Medvedev again, another world-class player. I mean, he's known for his sort of on-court antics, isn't he? And being a little bit, the expletives come out and all that kind of behaviour. I mean, did you use that to your advantage? I mean, you lost a set in that match, didn't you, as well? And how did that sort of play out?
Yeah, I knew he had a bit of a short temper, because I'd Googled him a little bit and seen he got defaulted from a match in America and he loses his rag. I didn't know a whole lot about him. He was only 220 in the world at the time, but he won his first 2 rounds 6-3, 6-1 and 6-1, 6-2 or something. So I was like, well, he's obviously playing well. And then, that game I went 5-1 down as well. Got it back to 5-3, had break points, but I felt like the better I played, the better he played. He's obviously very big, quite long, and you feel like you've got the ball past him, and then he comes out with these ridiculous angles. He had a missile of a serve, and I remember being 5-1 down, thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do to turn this around. He's playing unbelievable. And then he lowered his level a bit, and I made a few more balls, and won the second set 7-5, and then by then I felt like I was on top of him. I stopped hitting the ball in corners and coming in so much. I kept the ball down the middle, because he liked to target at the time. He liked you coming in and playing side to side. So I played up and back. I kept him short and pushed him deep, but kept it quite central. And I served at his body a lot, which I don't normally do, because I like, hitting ball towards target. So again, I adapted the game, and obviously he wasn't as effective. But I mean, I played very, very well. Played very, very good tennis. And as I said, I was 5-2 up serving for the fourth, and serving for the match in the fourth set, 5-2, and I lost my serve to Love. Got a little bit tight, and then 5-4 I held to Love. So yeah, it was weird. It didn't, when I won, it didn't really sink in. It didn't sink in for a while.
I mean, at this point, you were flying, weren't you? Just absolutely flying. And yeah, I mean, I was going to ask what was going through your mind at that moment, or I was
over the moon, because like one thing I would have regretted if I retired was I never played men's Wimbledon. I played juniors twice, so I had a great junior career, and I played Queens as an adult. I never played men's Wimbledon, singles, doubles, anything. And I remember thinking that's such a shame, because I was good enough. And so when I qualified, I was like, I've got everything I want now. Everything I want from the sport. But again, it didn't really make sense. As I said, the Monday before, I'm coaching mini reds. I made second round qualifying at Wimbledon when I was 19. I was looking good then, to really push on. It didn't quite happen for me. I wasn't the most lucky as well. And as I said, I worked very, very hard. Those 3 years, I got my weight right down. I was in good shape, but I was lucky as well. I was lucky to get in pre-qualifying. I was lucky I played my best tennis at Wimbledon. And I absolutely loved it. It was just, those few weeks were fantastic. I ended up playing Federer, in second round. I mean, the odds of that as well, the odds of winning your first round and playing him on centre on top of this story of qualifying, it's just, it was crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely crazy is an understatement. Phenomenal, really. But what it makes me think is that perhaps, some people would say that there's no such thing as luck. It's when preparation meets opportunity. It's a famous old saying. But it also just makes me feel like maybe you were playing with nothing to lose, playing with a freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm in this. there's no pressure on me. I can just do my thing. You know, like you talked about remaining calm in those sort of pressured situations, and anyone with any amount of scrutiny on them, perhaps, or expectation, might have gotten tight in those moments and not have been able to pull through them. It looked like you were thoroughly enjoying every minute of it. You know, when I watched the footage back.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I felt very blessed to be there. I worked really, really hard, like really hard those 3 years previously, and then I got injured, and I thought it wasn't going to happen. So I was there. I had nothing to lose. I was playing Federer. Obviously, I wanted to win. I think I was more disappointed than I looked. Obviously, you always want to play better if you lose, but yeah, I was happy to be there, and you know, I gave him a half decent game in the end, and I was absolutely knackered. Absolutely knackered. It was my 8th match in 11 days or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, and that was his second. Yeah. So I mean, we've skipped over the first round match as well, Berankis. I mean, you were absolutely on fire in that game, weren't you? That was some people refer to that as the game of your life, don't they?
I mean,
how did you feel about it?
When I saw I got caught 17, because it was quite a big story when I qualified. It was, the media quite enjoyed it because they got hold of the fact I was going to stop playing. And when I was on court 17, so on the Wimbledon programme, it was #1 match of the day to watch. And quite a lot of people were complaining that it was on 17 because there's only 300 odd seats. But I won my first ever match there as a junior on court 17. I remember thinking, this is lovely. Little side court, not too much attention. I've won here before. And yeah, I got out there in the first set, and the noise was ridiculous, and my opponent looked a bit shell-shocked. He came out, and my coach sort of said to him, like he was at his side in the warm-up, and he went like that to me, like he's nervous. He sort of said, like, go for him early because he's nervous. And I broke him first game. He hit like a double fault, that's probably like, 8 inches long. I remember thinking, all right then, game on. And yeah, I mean, I won in straight sets. There were some tricky moments in the match. I saved a load of break points. My body started going in the third set. I remember I had an issue with my stomach a bit, so I started slowing my serve down and putting more spin in it, which he didn't like. But yeah, I played really well on the big points, just under pressure. But I remember going 2 sets to love up, and I remember saying to myself, like, you can't lose now. You can't be that British guy who chokes from 2 sets up. You can't be another Brit who loses first round at Wimbledon. And I went a break up straight away and just held on. And I played really good tennis. And when he pushed me, I hit some really good shots at the end. But yeah, that was the best day of my tennis life for sure, that Monday. Like the atmosphere, like all my family and friends were there in different areas of the courts. It was loud. I played well. Yeah, what a day. Monday the 27th of June, that was, I think. Yeah, it was.
Fantastic, man. Even just sort of hearing you recall the moments makes the hair stand up, man.
Yeah, it's nice.
No, it does. And so, I mean, we've got to sort of touch on walking out on centre court. I mean, it's just a dream, isn't it, man? So many young tennis players just have that vision in their head of even just, gracing the grass.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm more proud now than I was at the time. I just wanted to get onto the match and try and beat him. And I knew it was a big deal because everyone was telling me it was a big deal. But it kind of all happened so quickly. I did appreciate it. I took it all in. But I was there to not get thumped. And I was very, after I lost the first set 6-love, I thought, right, okay, I wasn't playing that bad. I just didn't get over the line on the game. So I was thinking, right, I can't enjoy all this. I can't worry about all this. I've got to try and beat this guy. And he's quite hard to beat.
You played your part in that match. You entertained the crowd. You played a shot in that match that was voted shot of the tournament. So, and you were up against, like, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what did you learn from that, from playing that match? What did you take from it?
what I took from it, what I found out after was during my first round against Berankis, he had 2 scouts watching. One was watching Berankis, one was watching me. So he's got people watching, you know, the rounds before to see where they like to serve on big points. Where all I've got on Federer, right, is that A, he's pretty amazing, and B, you look at a lot of videos, there is kind of his highlights. So you think he's this player who goes around hitting amazing winners all the time, when in actual reality he does it maybe 2 or 3 times a set max. I thought he'd play a lot more aggressive. He kept the ball up really deep and slow and made me sort of, it took me by surprise at the start. So every time I had like a 40-30 or a big point, I'd try and hit a winner just because he was slowing the ball down. I thought, oh, he's giving me an opportunity to attack. But as I got into it, I started calming down a bit and playing more normal, and that's when I had most success. But, you know, his serve's so good, so accurate, not the most powerful in the world, but it like moves everywhere. There's no read on it. And the most frustrating thing was even if I hit a really deep or hard shot, he wouldn't back off. So you can't get any time off him because he just uses his hands and redirects the ball around. So it's like you're hitting a shot and you've got to hit the next one straight away. Whereas other players like Rublev, he hit the ball a lot harder than Federer, but he's a lot further back. So he gives you time to maneuver the ball around a bit. So I just felt quite rushed, certainly at the start. Yeah, he kind of, I don't know, he kind of had a really good attack and a really good defence. And I couldn't really make him play anything other than attack or defence. That was the problem I had, was that once I got him in a neutral rally where he was hitting from the back, you know, he'd miss sometimes, especially on that backhand. But the problem was getting it there 3 times in a row because he tries to run round it and he'll slice it down the line and like come in. So, you know, Djokovic has had the most success against him because he manages to keep him back. That's the only thing you can. That's the only way I think you can beat him, is by if they don't close the bloody roof, which didn't help me at all. And so if you get, you know, a bit of wind or a bit of sun, a bit of a leveler, then you can, you know, maybe cause them some problems. B, yeah, you've got to try and keep him back, try and keep him away from the net, or you can't give him too many forehands. But look, I mean, he's at the time he was the best player in the, you know, best of all time for sure. On grass, you know, with the roof closed, I didn't do too bad. I didn't do too bad. So yeah, it could have gone a lot worse as well. I always look back at certain points in the match and think, you know, I had a break point to in the third set that would have taken me 5-3 up serving. I kind of look back to that, but then, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. He hit a massive serve and a forehand and a smash. It's like, but you think, like, what if he wasn't so amazing on that point? What if, you know, I got that point? But, you know, it could have been a lot worse as well, as I said.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess it's needless to say, I'm guessing that was sort of the high point of your career, yeah? Pinnacle, would you say?
Yeah, like, it's the best I ever did at a slam. I had my dream of playing at Wimbledon. Yeah, it was incredible. Like my singles career for sure. I mean, I got everything I wanted then. You know, had I played Wimbledon before, maybe not. But it's the fact that I never got there and I came through pre-qualies and qualies and was about to retire. It was like quite a nice turnaround for me. Yeah, it was really nice. So much better than maybe getting a wild card and just winning a match and then losing second round. You know, I feel like I really earned that. And a lot of people didn't see it coming. Like, it surprised quite a lot of people. And certainly to the untrained eye, like, people thought I was, you know, I was playing a lot better than someone 700 in the world, obviously. But people thought I was like this guy who was, you know, 700 in the world always. You know, I've been 200-300 in the world before, but like people thought, you know, 770, he's a coach who's just rocked up for Wimbledon. So, I mean, some of the stories coming out of it were quite funny, but you know, even though I was still a good player, it was still a good achievement. Like, very good.
Yeah, without doubt. And the reason I said that about it being the pinnacle, I'm just interested in how you found sort of life post that experience, you know, sort of coming down from that high.
Yeah, it was weird, right? Like, so for some time after, I went on like Good Morning Television the next day. I was with Holly Willoughby and Schofield, and then I went on Piers Morgan, and I got offered quite a lot of money to go on Celebrity Big Brother, but I was getting married, so I didn't go on it. It's all, like, looking back, it's all artificial though. It's all, you know, people aren't bad people, but people are interested in you because they want to make a bit of money off you, or, you know, want you for something that helps them. And it's very easy to get wrapped up in it all, but, you know, I didn't go on Celebrity Big Brother because I knew what life would be like. It's not something I wanted to do. And for some people, it'd be great. But for me, no, I wanted to actually, after all that, I wanted to just go home and shut the door and chill out for a little bit and try and take it all in and just rest, because it's tiring. Like all the media, all the stuff, it's good, and financially it's great, but yeah, it's not something I'd want to do forever. Like, it's exhausting. And as I said, it's artificial. So yeah, it was weird. Like a couple of years after, I'm injured again, and you know, I didn't qualify for Wimbledon the next year, but I made third round of doubles, and I'm still there. And then I had a bad elbow injury the next year, and then, as I said, I retired in 2020 with a pandemic being on and having no funding again. So I put on a lot of weight. I was coaching, I was, you know, socializing too much, shall we say. But I had nothing to train for anymore. I kind of like lost my purpose a little bit. You know, coaching's great. I love helping people on court, but I didn't need to be in shape. I didn't need to go for a run. So I just let myself go a little bit. Which is, I suppose, yeah, I think quite a lot of athletes do it, don't they? I'm not the only one to put on a bit of timber. But yeah, as I said, just over a year and a half ago, I was playing an exhibition tournament, and I was still playing quite well, even though I was out of shape. And, you know, a friend of mine at the club said, look, I've just come into a lot of money. I can sponsor you to go and play on tour if you want. And I was like, what? Because I just retired. I was, you know, coaching and quite happy sorting out the next stage of my life. I was like, you know, look, I'm going to have to train and get in shape. And he's like, yeah, go for it. And so I trained from the March up until the June, started playing last July, and now I'm at 220 in the world on the doubles tour, playing ATP challenges in Italy. So, I mean, that comeback's gone really well, like much better than I expected. So, you know, hopefully next year I'm knocking on the door for Wimbledon. You know, that's the goal again. And I'm not done yet. I'm playing doubles, but again, another very random thing I didn't see coming. But this time it's just, you know, I just get on with it, and I don't have that long to play. Like, I'm 32 now. If I can go past 40 and make a good career out of this, great. You know, if in a year's time I'm not really progressing, I'll probably, you know, I'm not going to keep getting sponsored forever. Like, no one's going to keep throwing money at me if I'm not improving. So here I am in Italy.
It's really amazing to hear you speaking with that fire in your belly again, man, and to perhaps have rediscovered that purpose, it sounds like. Listen, Marcus, you've got a doubles match tomorrow, so, you know, I don't want to keep you up any longer than we need to. You need your rest. But before we wrap up, is there any kind of parting message you want to leave with our audience, or
yeah, no, I think there is. I was thinking about this earlier. Like, obviously, I've got a lot of time to think to myself when I'm going nuts by myself. But I kind of wish that, you know, the times I did stop, I wish I'd believed in myself more, and just, you know, kept going, because a lot of people say you never know how close you are to something until you know, quit. There's loads of people who say that, but it's so true. And I think, you know, in whatever you do, have a support network of people that care about you. It doesn't have to be the best coach in the world, but people that care about you, that will support you. I think that's more important than any super coach in the world. So that's what I didn't have, and that's what I've learned is really important. Even now, I've got, you know, my network's big. I'm, you know, speaking to a lot of different people about how I'm trying to be better, and I keep my friends and family close as well. But I just say, look, try, you know, believe in yourself even when you think no one else does. I think that's the most important thing, because, you know, we just missed out on a Wimbledon wildcard this year, and it's very easy to go, oh, people don't believe in me, blah, blah, blah. But actually, I've sort of turned it around and gone, well, it's amazing that I'm even in the question for a Wimbledon wildcard this year, considering I didn't play until August last year. So little things like that would have knocked me before because, someone else didn't appreciate how well I'd done. It's just try and keep believing in yourself and keep trying to improve yourself each day and try and ignore all the outside nonsense. That's what I do now, and I feel mentally I'm in the best place I've ever been. And whether I get where I want to get or not, I can have no regrets moving forward. That's it. That's what I don't want is regret, because I already had a few of them through stuff I did in my career. So
it's a great way to finish the conversation, man. Thanks ever so much for your time, Marcus. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the tournament that you're currently playing in.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Take care.
The goal is within.